Be sure to get out and cast your ballot if you have not done so already. How about the Final Four games this past weekend? Man, they were a lot of fun to watch. As frustrating as my bracket was, I found the competition in the men's bracket to be a lot of fun. But wow, even the women's tournament was even better. It was fantastic. The commissioners look forward to hearing your case today. As we understand, every project is important and unique. In addition, we want to make sure we address all the docketed items individually with the attention that they deserve to build consensus between the applicant, the public, and city staff. We also believe we can reach consensus by being brief yet heard. Because our meeting is hybrid, we have time limits for the cases that we hear, which is 5 minutes for staff presentations, 20 minutes for the applicant, plus any questions that the commissioners may have. And then once we move into public comment, I will call on those who are in the council chambers first, followed by those who are joining us virtually. We do have a timer to keep our meeting on track and expect public comments to be no longer than 2 minutes when speaking as an individual, or up to 5 minutes when representing a community association or a larger group. In all instances, please limit repetitive comments. As you can see today, we have 4 commissioners, and a lot of it is due to the voting today. A lot of commissioners like to get out and volunteer for that. So this is a quorum of 4, but just setting it out there that if by chance we hear a case and it needs to be continued, after we start hearing the case, the 4 of us will need to be the ones to hear the case moving forward. So just letting you know that. Couple more items here. The comprehensive plan, the KC Spirit Playbook, is inches away from being complete and final. We'll hear a little bit more about that in a few minutes. And of course, next meeting 2 weeks from today will be presented for approval. So as we start our meeting, I asked staff to provide some ground rules and instructions to ensure that we have minimal disruption and maximum clarity. So Joe, do you mind going over those for me, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. As mentioned by the chairman, this meeting is a hybrid meeting on Zoom as well as in person in the council chamber. For that reason, when we call for public hearing, we will take testimony from those in attendance in the chamber first, followed by those who have raised their hand on Zoom. And if you're an applicant and you're in the chamber, you obviously can just come right up to the table to speak when your case is called. However, if you're on Zoom, please raise your hand and we'll promote you over to a panelist position. Whether you're the applicant or a citizen wishing to provide testimony, you do need to raise your hand so that we know to promote you over, and you do need to accept the promotion once you're invited. For any attendee, whether you're a panelist or a regular attendee, the chat feature is intended to be used only for questions about technology or placement on the agenda, and it is not to be used for providing testimony on the merits of any project. And that concludes my advice, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe one more thing about today's meeting. We do have a couple of commissioners that need to leave by noon. So we're going to try to get through our meeting as fast as we can and hear as many cases as we can between now and noon. So with that, Joe, let's start with the consent agenda items, I guess, beginning with C1.
Right. C1 is case number CPC 2022-00138. It's a final plan for the KC Current Stadium, and the applicant is requesting continuance to May 2nd, and staff recommends without fee.
Okay. Any questions from the commission?
I've just got, we continue this case, and we got a.
I thought we did it off docket. Was that?
Yeah, that was.
I didn't see the record of it being continued off docket. It could be that our notes were wrong, but we can continue it off docket today if that's what you want to do and pull it back up.
I just want to get a date certain on when we're ready to go.
We would like that too.
Do we have a member from their team here today to give an update as to why the date is May 2nd?
You remember, Mr. Clark, I thought there's a piece of this project that we continued off docket so that they could, or is that part of that MoDOT piece?
We didn't continue off docket. We just kept continuing it to collaborate with MoDOT because of the traffic study not being completed, which is the main reason why this has been continued.
I mean, they'll be opening up the stadium by the time they start. That's how I feel. So I'm just trying to get an update on date certain when thinks they're going to have it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but there was an ordinance that was passed by the council that allowed them to receive their permits before the commission approves the final plan. So normally people's feet would be held to the fire and they'd have to get this final plan approved. In this case, they don't have that pressure on them to get this plan approved by you guys. And I think that's a big reason why you're seeing the continuances. And Andy is the person who's the person that's online. I can promote them.
They are actually here today.
Oh, they're here in person. Yep. Okay.
Good morning. I'm Ryan Whitaker with project director with Legends Project Development. We're the owner's representative on the project, and we're representing the applicant team this morning. First of all, I want to thank city staff, specifically Andy Clark and Bailey Waters, with all the work that they've been assisting us with. So where we are in the process right now, we had put together a traffic study with Olson, and we had provided that to MoDOT for their review, and they had some additional concerns based upon the results of that traffic study, based upon the modeling that was done. So we have been, over the last couple of weeks, since we initially got to the point where those concerns were still there for at March 20th, when all the application materials were due for this hearing, when we requested the continuance at that time, we have continued working on identifying opportunities to mitigate those traffic issues, where traffic entering the stadium specifically prior to a match would potentially back up onto I-29 and I-35. And we think we're moving in the right direction on that. We just have to have some additional time in requesting this continuance to be able to model those assumptions out and be able to work with both MoDOT and city staff in order to properly alleviate all of those concerns.
So is May 2nd enough time to get everything done?
We believe so. There's one piece in this that deals with the streetcar authority and the bid that's currently out in terms of how the construction on the Grand Street Viaduct will potentially impact this. And those bids come back in a little over a week. So we're hoping that that's kind of the last kind of unknown piece in all of this that will potentially impact the results of that study. So we have kind of some different kind of approaches based upon the results of that, help those bids come back. Because if the viaduct is entirely shut down, there's only one way in and one way out.
So that's May 2nd's a tight date as well.
Yes, we realize that, but to staff's point, we are totally focused on this issue right now. This is our biggest issue. This is our biggest risk to the project. So we are treating this with the utmost urgency to get this resolved and gain everybody's acceptance in a good path moving forward on this.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously, I think for us, we're just trying to help move the project through the process, because we know it takes a little bit of time. And so the more we continue this, the longer it gets drawn out. And so.
Right. Excuse me.
Yeah. We just want to help accommodate the opening day later this year.
Yeah,
is that right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, we know this is very urgent. We want to get this finished as well. So we definitely want to, we would only be continuing this if there were still outstanding issues that needed to be resolved to address everyone's concerns.
I'm just wondering, do you need another 2 weeks on top of the May 2nd to get everything done?
I mean, if that is acceptable to the commission, I mean, that would certainly provide us with a little bit of breathing room to make sure that we have everything that you need, as well as time for city staff to properly review the revisions to the traffic study.
from my perspective, I'd rather have a realistic date to continue keeping.
Right.
Okay. Any questions, Commissioner? Okay, thank you. Excuse me.
Thank you.
This time we'll open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item C1 and the continuance of that, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber wishing to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. And I'll take a motion, please.
Do we want to continue another 2 weeks on?
I think that sounds reasonable.
So.
Yeah.
What date?
16th.
16th.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I move to continue case C1 to May 16th. Without fee.
Got a motion and a second to continue docket item C1 to May 16th without a fee. Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Sadowski. Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 4-0 for continuance to May 16th. Thank you. Appreciate the update. All right, let's move to docket item C2, please.
C2 is case number final plat 2020-00016, a request to approve a final plat in District R1.5 for Forest Ridge Villa Apartments located on East 135th Street at Charlotte Street. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. And docket item C3, case number final plat 2023-00003, request to approve a final plat on the south side of 27th west of Cleveland Avenue for Greenwood Senior Housing. Staff recommends approval with conditions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commissioners regarding docket items C2 or C3? Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket items C2 or C3, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber who wishes to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and close public testimony then, and I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Corral, I move to approve docket items C2 and C3 with conditions.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket items C2 and C3. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Sadowski. Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes for approval of docket items C2 and C3. All right, with that, let's move on to our regular agenda items, beginning with those that are looking to be postponed to a future date.
The first one is docket item number 1, which is the playbook. And I know we have a long range planner here. Do you want me to call that continuance out with the rest of them? Or do you want to call the case and discuss it separately?
Let's go ahead and discuss that one separately.
Okay. Then the next continuance is docket item 6, case number CPC 2023-00016, a request to approve a development plan for the MC 106 data center at Missouri Highway 210 and North Arlington Avenue. Applicant requests continuance to April 18th. Staff recommends with fee. Docket item 10, case number CPC 2023-00002, a request to approve a rezoning from District B4-2 to District UR and a preliminary development plan on about 1 acre at 65th and Troost Avenue. The applicant's requesting continuance to May 2nd. Staff recommends without fee. Docket item 11, case number CPC 2023-00026, a request to approve a residential development plan for a multi-unit building at 303 Broadway. The applicant is requesting continuance to April 18th. Staff recommends without fee. Docket item 12, case number CPC 2023-00029, request to approve a rezoning without a plan from District R7.5 to District R80 on about 2 acres at Red Bridge Road and State Line Road. Applicant requests continuance to April 18th. Staff recommends without fee. Docket item 13, case number CPC 2023-00013, a request to approve a rezoning from District R6 to District M3-5 to permit an existing non-conforming business on the property at 3808 East 78th Street. Applicant requests continuance to May 16th. Staff recommends with fee. Docket item 14, case number CPC 2023-00003. Request to approve a rezoning from District R 7.5 and District B 3-2 to District B 4-2 for gasoline and fuel sales in a warehouse on about 1.5 acres at 1215 East Bannister Road. The applicant requests continuance to April 18th. Staff recommends without fee. Docket item 16, case number SUP 2022-00013. A request to approve a special use permit for the Crestview Dairy event space at 16499 East 83rd Street. The applicant is requesting continuance to April 18th. Staff recommends without fee. Docket item 17, case number SUP 2022-00056. Request to approve a special use permit to allow for a restaurant in a residential district at 2032 Summit Street. The applicant is requesting continuance to April 18th. Staff recommends without fee. And finally, docket item number 19, case number SUP 2022-00045. Request to approve a special use permit for a gas station at 8025 Hickman Mills Road. The applicant is requesting continuance to May 2nd and staff recommends without fee. In the case of docket items 10, 14, and 19, the agenda is incorrect. So those will need to be noted as I stated them, and I can help remind you if you need that.
Okay, and docket item 6, you said with fee or without fee? Is written as without fee.
Yeah, docket item 6 is written as approval with conditions, but the applicant, at least on my agenda, the applicant wants continuance and we've recommended with fee.
With fee. Okay. Do you want to do the 2 dismissals now or you want to wait till?
Sure, I can do that.
Motion
Yeah.
15 and 18. I
Thank
believe.
you. 15 is case number CPC 2023-00004. A request to approve a non-residential development plan for a warehouse and gas station at 1215 East Bannister Road. So this is companion to the docket item 14. But in this one, the applicant's requesting dismissal. And then docket item 18, case number CPC 2022-00182. This is the Sawyer preliminary plat located on North Rhine King Road, about a half mile north of Northeast Shoal Creek Parkway. And this one, the applicant is requesting dismissal as well.
Okay. Commissioners get all that? Okay. Any questions on any of the continuances or dismissals? Okay. So at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody that would like to speak regarding continuance or dismissal of docket items 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, or 19, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber who wishes to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then for continuance or dismissal. And I'll take a motion from the commission, please. Who's brave enough?
Chair Corral, I move to continue docket items 11, 12, 13, 16, and 17 as stated in the docket. To continue docket item 6 to April 18th with fee, docket item 10 without fee to May 2nd, docket item 14 without fee to April 18th. To dismiss docket item 15, to dismiss docket item 18, and to continue docket item 19 to May 2nd without fee.
Very well.
Someone give him an award.
I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for continuance and dismissal of all those cases listed. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, looks like the motion passes then 4-0. With that, let's go back to docket item number 1. I know it's to be continued. I guess let's open it up and maybe commissioners have a couple questions before we move ahead.
Sure.
Go from there.
Docket item 1.1, the Casey Spirit Playbook. Receiving from Long Range Planning and Development staff a presentation, except you're not today, on the new comprehensive plan. And then 1.2 is a companion case amending chapter 88 to accommodate the playbook. And Morgan Pemberton is here in case you have any questions.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
Maybe just a brief update, kind of where we're at, where we're
Of
headed.
course. So we are spending this week making any final editing tweaks and adding any additional recommendations that have come up from feedback from the City Plan Commission, from counselors, from the general public when they were reviewing the draft objectives a couple months ago. We're also putting together that final big PDF document that will come through with the adoption process. But really, the website is where the plan will primarily live. And yeah, we're going to be coming back on April 18th to hold the public hearing and to request for a vote of recommendation of approval to the Neighborhood Planning and Development Committee and City Council.
Okay, very good. Any questions from anybody?
I've got one that might display some of my ignorance of how this happens. Will you all have, in terms of recommended land use, will there be any easy way to see what might have changed from 20 years ago till now in terms of areas that are now called out for a different recommended land use, or does that not happen in this process?
That the future land use maps that you find in our 18 area plans, that's not a part of the comprehensive plan.
Got it.
We keep all of those future land use designations confined to area plan and the area plan mapping. So this is much more of a just general citywide policy document.
Perfect. That answers it. Thanks.
Okay, questions? And I have none, so thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Let's move on then to, we're at docket item number 2.
Yeah, you probably should vote to continue it
Oh, we need to, okay.
since you,
Yes, please.
Okay, so I guess we don't do any public testimony on that, on this one, right?
don't have to.
Okay,
No,
so I'll need a motion then to continue this to April 18th, please.
Chair Corral, I move to motion a continuance to this case to April 18th.
Second.
Okay, so I've got a motion and a second to continue docket items 1.1 and 1.2 to April 18th. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, looks like motion passes for the continuance to the next meeting. All right, docket item 2, please.
docket item 2 is 2 companion cases, starting with 2.1, case number CPC 2023-00032. Request to approve an area plan amendment to change the recommended land use from residential urban low to mixed use neighborhood on about 2/10 of an acre at 23rd and Agnes. And docket item 2.2, case number CPC 2023-00014. Rezoning the same area of land from District R 2.5 to District B1-2. Andy Clark is our staff planner.
Good morning, commissioners and Chairman Crow. I will
Morning.
share my screen.
Hey, nice haircut. I like it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned from the best.
Yes.
All right, before you are docket items 2.1 and 2.2. This is for the lofts at 2912 East 23rd Street. This is a rezoning without plan, and long range planning also asked for an area plan amendment. So they run together. The site is located just south of 70 and just east of 71. It's really right off of Benton Boulevard and 23rd Street. As you know, the 23rd Street connector is still making its way to the east. So 23rd will have some significant improvements done by Public Works in the next few years. Here is the building currently, and this rezoning request, this is actually 2 lots. It includes both of these. Right now, the current zoning makes it hard to rehabilitate this structure into anything other than a detached home because it's R25. he could do a duplex, but with such a large structure, it really limits anyone from being able to save this building. So by rezoning it to the B1, it allows for more units to be put in here, as well as potential mixed use in the future. And here's a view looking west on 23rd. And then this building existed before we even had zoning. So this building is always allowed a mixed use option here. And then Commissioner Beasley's not here, but of course, this proves the building has always had a variety of uses. Long-range planning, as you can see to the left of this site, it's recommended as mixed-use neighborhood. There's a lot of institutional uses, and historically, there were a lot of commercial buildings at this intersection. Long-range asks that we expand mixed-use neighborhood to cover these two lots. And staff's recommendation for both of these cases are approval.
Okay.
And I do have Mr. Kelly here, who owns the building.
Okay. Yeah, please come sit up here. So just the 2.1, you do have the extra 2 lots as part of the amendment to the area plan
Correct.
included in here. Okay. All right. Any questions by the commissioners for city staff? Okay, thank you. Let's welcome the applicant then. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Anything you'd like to add to the staff comments? Okay. Have you looked at the conditions of the case and seen those and agree with those as well? Okay. All right.
Yeah, no conditions on this one.
Even better.
Even better.
Okay. So with that, let's open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket items 2.1 or 2.2, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber wishing to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, perfect. All right, with that, we'll close public testimony then. Anything else to add?
Can you tell us a little more about the project and?
It's a project that will be adding some affordable housing. We were awarded a grant through the city to provide some housing, so we'll be changing it into an 8-plex. If
All right.
the percentage, I need to get the exacts, but a percentage will be offered for affordable housing.
And thank you. At this time, we'll close testimony then and speak amongst the commission, or I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve docket item 2.1 and 2.2 without conditions.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket items 2.1 and 2.2. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Anders,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 4-0. Thank you for bringing it in and good luck as you move forward.
All right.
Great
Thank you.
project.
Thank you.
All right, I'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Sounds good.
Oh. So with that, let's move on then to docket item number 3, please.
Docket item 3 is case number CPC 2023-00024. Request to approve a rezoning from District R80 to District MPD Master Plan Development and approval of a preliminary development plan, which also acts as a preliminary plat on about 10 acres at George Avenue and Blue Parkway. Andy Clark is the staff planner.
Excuse me as I share my screen. Okay, before you now is docket number 3. This is for All American Contracting on Blue Parkway, case number 2023-24. This is a rezoning to master plan district, and it's also serves as a preliminary development plan. The site is located in the southeastern part of the city, just outside of what is commonly known as Knobtown. Right off of Blue Parkway, which is also known as 350, and is just east of Nolan Road, and the Blue River abuts this site. Little Blue River. Here's a view looking southwest on Blue Parkway. As you can see, the site is heavily undeveloped. The reason why is that it's primarily in a floodplain, so it has never been developed. And then here's a view looking southeast on Blue Parkway. And some of you might know that the trail now cuts around this site, the Rock Island Trail. The applicant is proposing to rezone from R80 to MPD in order to construct a contractor's garage for their concrete business. The reason why they were able to apply for rezoning to MPD is that staff has requested for them to place all of the land that's within the floodplain and stream buffer into a preservation tract so that it can never be developed. The whole point of master plan developments are to preserve the natural environment. And so that is how it was able to apply for this. The site is just under 10 acres, but only 2 of these acres could ever be developed. So this application is making minimal impact onto this land. As you probably saw with the amount of conditions placed on this case, it's a very difficult site. Staff has worked very closely with the design professional, trying to figure out the complexity here. Originally, septic was proposed. After talking to KC Water, we can't support a septic system within a stream buffer and next to a creek. So the applicant will have to connect to the Little Blue Valley Sewer District interceptor. Also in this drawing, plans will need to be revised before ordinance request. It's showing a curb cut onto 350. MoDOT said no curb cuts are allowed onto 350. Staff's recommendation is approval with conditions, and revised plans and corrections shall be resolved before moving to council. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Any questions from the commission to city staff?
Yeah, I'm a little confused why we're building down in a floodplain.
The small piece of land that is actually being developed is outside of the stream buffer and outside of the floodplain. And we do have, I think Luke just jumped in almost with water. We worked very closely with water to make sure no entitlement was given, and then all of us realizing there's no way to develop this area.
Say something.
Luke, do you have anything?
I'm sorry, Andrew, which case are you working on right now?
This is All American Contracting on 350.
Docket item number 3.
Nothing additional to add, I suppose. I just jumped on and I'm sorry, I've been having internet issues here in my office this morning. This was the one that we talked about. We did have discussions on this one regarding the septic on that. And the extension of the private main from the north, I think it's the northeast sewer there. Northeast Industrial District sewer. Andrew, I don't know if that came up. Is that what we were wanting to discuss?
Commissioner Allender was just clarifying with staff that as asking us why we are allowing development to happen here. And I just explained it's outside of the stream buffer and outside of the floodplain.
That's correct. We got a set of plans that did show preliminary stream buffer. The area in this phase 1 development is located outside of the stream buffer.
Are we confident then that this won't flood? I mean, it's outside. We talk about 1 in 100-year storms. Now we're at 1 in 500 years. I mean, just wondering whether it's going to flood or not.
That would be outside of my expertise. I mean, we rely on KC Water for their reviews, but I think that also really falls on the applicant for developing in near a floodplain.
Yeah, look at condition 39. The other question I had for you is just the condition about tying into Little Blue Valley Sewer District, because we have 33, any proposed private sewer mains must provide a private sanitary sewer easement and a covenant to maintain private sanitary sewers, but do we have anything where it needs to connect into Little Blue or whatever? 32 says proposed private sewage disposal must comply with Department of Health. So is that okay with that versus?
I believe there's a condition that I put in there. I don't have them in front of me that says no certificate of occupancy can be issued until sanitary has been confirmed. Something
Right.
along
So
those
what
lines.
Andrew, I think where the issue was right now was that I think they show on their last plan that I looked at, they showed a septic on lot phase 1, correct? I think they showed it there, but there was possibly a future extension of that northeast industrial sewer from that sewer to the west. They were planning on possibly extending that over to serve this development in the future. Do you know what they ended up figuring out with that, Andrew?
Phase 1 will be connected to the sanitary. And
Phase 1 will be connected to the sanitaries.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think then are you under the impression that the septic is not going to happen?
That's correct. That's one of my corrections on the
So then
revised plans.
Okay, so then I would say that then that condition for the compliance with the septic and that stuff could probably be removed.
Okay.
Okay, so that'd be like number 12.
And then what,
Revised plans showing the removal of the septic system.
correct. And then I don't have the numbers on the conditions in front of me. But then the condition would remain for the a private sanitary sewer extension and the covenant to maintain.
I think 12 would stay. That's the remove.
Yeah, but it's saying that a new plan was submitted without the septic system shown. So I don't know if that's been on or not. So it sounds like we probably just need to leave it and it can be crossed off if it's already done.
Understand that. When we review the final plat for approval, we will understand and we can resolve that.
Okay. Yeah, and then the other conditions. 32 is about the proposed private sewage disposal system, meeting Department of Health, and then 33, the covenant to maintain.
Just a question on this. I know we've had some cases up north where they've been built in a floodplain or close to a floodplain. Do we need the applicant to indemnify the city if the building does flood?
They would have to do a floodplain development permit before they would be allowed to do anything in the actual floodway or 100-year floodplain. So the development on the west parcel on phase 2 is going to be currently, I mean, it's going to be hard to do much development on there without, big time work with their floodplain permit application. They would probably have no rise, possibly elevation certificates and all that stuff that would go along with that, and possibly even, some remapping. It's hard to tell without a plan for that phase yet, but that's what would happen.
Any more questions for city staff? With that, we'll finally welcome the applicant. Maybe he can clear up some of this stuff for us.
Commissioners, thank you for your time. My name is Jacob Hodson. I'm an applicant and agent for All American Contracting. I'm with Olson at 1301 Burlington Avenue. Before you today, Mr. Chair, is quite a unique master plan development. We are proposing to do this into 2 phases so we can make this property somewhat productive, the part that is not in the floodplain. In order to have an MPD, we needed the acreage. So we've tied them all together and we're proposing on the second phase just a set of criteria for any kind of development should it ever happen. And so that's what you see on the sheet C 401 as an outline of what the rules of development that we're putting onto ourselves. And so a majority of this will be conservation. So there are a few things that are allowed in the floodplain, such as, types of farming and other agricultural things. So we don't exactly have a plan now, but we'd like to keep that option open. And so we set forth this criteria that you can agree upon and that we'd be held to. The office is also a workshop for All American Contracting. They're a local company here and he's just needing to expand. Right now he's working out of his home shop and needs a little bit extra space. We have spoken with the neighbor, Sean O'Sullivan. He owns the properties just to the south of us, I guess at an angle southeast. About the sewer main extension. He's excited because currently he's on a septic system too, which is very near the floodplain. So we are going to attempt to work with him to try to make all that happen at one time, to be able to get more than one property off of septic system in that area. And we would also ask for your approval that we can do these in 2 phases after the initial development of the sanitary system, that we would then ask that the future development would be approved through a final master plan. I mean, at a later time. So with that, that's about all I have to say. If you have any additional questions, be happy to answer them.
Yeah, what's your intent on the sewer treatment?
So the sewer would be a line from our parcel to the Little Blue Valley Sewer District main. We have not worked through all the design. We've done some preliminary and it is possible. But we have not finalized that design. There's a couple different routes we can take with it.
Okay, so you haven't talked to Little Blue yet?
We have.
Okay.
Yeah, we have talked to Little Blue and that's how we got the layout we've gotten. They said we cannot tie into the pipe. We have to tie into a manhole and that's why it's got to take a little longer route to get to that manhole.
Yeah, okay. Any questions for the applicant?
2 questions. What's the small building on the lot and will that remain?
Oh, the existing building?
Yeah.
It's an old house that's fallen apart. It will not remain, although currently there's some investigation around it to try to make sure there's no items in there that need to be salvaged and then it will be tore down.
Gotcha. And then I'm looking at page 10 of the staff report, the one that shows all the green lines for all the existing versus not. So I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. The existing sanitary sewer comes very, very close.
No, there is no existing sanitary sewer. That's why we would need that main extension. The parcel that we're showing the building on is allowed by ordinance to have a septic system. But then our discussions with staff and the fact that we would like to at someday be able to do something on phase 2, they put the condition in that we would have to put a sanitary line from that building to the Little Blue main.
So that makes sense and is consistent with everything that's been said. Why? So it was just mislabeled on here then, or what is the?
Well, we had 2 plans that go in at one time. And there were some last minute things from MoDOT that we tried to incorporate it and we just haven't got all of the plans cleaned up and presented in one clean fashion. Now it's been a work in progress. We've been working with staff quite a bit.
I think I'm tracking on everything. And so if this page that I was looking at, if that were to, is that where the new line is supposed to go? The one that says existing, that's where the proposed sanitary sewer line would go, or does it go somewhere else completely?
The proposed sanitary line would come out of the back of the building and run northwest and clear across the area of phase 2 to Little Blue, which is on the other side of George Road.
Gotcha. So it's just the one that's labeled as existing sanitary sewer should just be labeled as proposed sanitary sewer.
So, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
And I think that's what that condition 12 is regarding. Yeah. Any other questions from the commissioners to the applicant?
I guess I'm just wondering, in the process of putting that sewer line in, part of the preservation, I imagine, is tree preservation, and those are the floodplain pieces, elements that we need to protect. Can you just talk about limiting construction activity?
Yeah, so the routing of that, if you look at an aerial of the plan where that house, the older house was, there is a bit of a clearing, and the plan is to take it through that tree clearing and basically go right across where that house is and there's a little pond, skim the edge of that so we don't have to go through the pond. That's our preliminary layout, but that is correct. We are attempting to save as many trees as possible, not only for, environmental reasons, but for cost. It costs more to tear down trees than it does to go through open ground. So
Sure.
Anything else? Okay. So at this time, let's go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 3, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber wishing to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else to add?
I do not, sir. I just ask that you approve this case. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it's time we'll close testimony then, speak amongst the commission. So I want to make sure that we're good on the conditions about the private system and the connectivity to Little Blue, that it's in there. Okay. There's nothing else. I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve docket item number 3 with conditions.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 3 with conditions stated. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
So it looks like the motion is for approval of docket item number 3. Thank you and good luck as you move forward.
Thank you, commissioners.
With that, let's move on to docket item 4.1 and 4.2, please.
All right, docket item 4.1 is case number CPC 2023-00015. Request to approve a rezoning from District AG-R to District M2-5 to allow an industrial development on about 62 acres at the southeast corner of Interstate 435 and North Congress Avenue. And docket item 4.2, case number CPC 2023-00019, a request to approve a development plan to allow 2 400,000 square foot industrial buildings on the same property. Genevieve Kahn is the staff planner.
Good morning, commissioners. I will share my presentation. Before you is docket item 4.1 and 4.2 for a rezoning and a development plan for industrial development for 5-Star Logistics. Site is generally located just south of I-435 and east of I-29. Subject site is approximately 60 acres and outlined in yellow. It is currently zoned AGR for agricultural residential, and the applicant is proposing to rezone to M2-5. This site should look familiar. At the last meeting, we had a development plan for the adjacent property to the east. And then this is the future land use. So the future land use recommends commercial and industrial, which is consistent with the proposed rezoning to M2. And then this is just the language from the KCIA area plan stating what that future land use means. And then we have the site plan for the proposed development. Project contains 2 400,000 square foot light industrial warehouse buildings. You can also see there are areas on the outside for truck, trailer parking. There will be 2 access drives off of North Congress on the west side of the property, and then a private access drive connecting to that proposed development to the east. So we have some increased east-west connection rather than having to go all the way up to Cookingham, as we are seeing much industrial development come through this area. One condition of this project or this case is that project plans are filed. Later on, the plans that were provided were largely conceptual. And so the applicant has provided some design guidelines so that when they come in later, when they have tenants and they're ready to construct, staff has something to review so the plan stays consistent. And then just kind of looking at the site, this view is looking south on North Congress and the subject site is on your left. And then this is a little bit farther down the site, looking north, site is on the right. So there's pretty much just a tree buffer around the edge. And then the interior of the site is mostly cleared as it was used agriculturally. So for the rezoning, staff recommends approval, and for the development plan, the recommendation is approval with conditions. And I can take any questions, and the applicant is also available.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission and the city staff? All right, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant then. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. Aaron Schmidt with Hunt Midwest. Appreciate staff's review and cooperation and recommendation on these two cases. One issue I'd like to discuss is condition number 6 in the staff report states all stormwater detention ponds and areas of steep slope shall be planted with native grasses, seed mixture, and native shrubs. So the city has this has to do with water quality, and the city has a code for best management practices that we will meet. There are many different ways to be able to meet that code. One of the ways would be to do native seed and grasses, but there's a lot of other different options to be able to meet that code. So we would like to have this condition removed. Again, not trying to get away from doing the code, but at this point in time where we are from design, we might have a much better option to be able to meet that specification in the code than doing native grasses, which are extremely hard to maintain, take 5 years to set up, and will have a lot of erosion problems, especially on steep slopes. So we request that this condition be removed.
I imagine the alternative would be the underground detention.
Yeah, that's one option. Also vegetative swales kind of around the property. Native grasses in other areas, I think, would probably be an option. And we may do this, but we just don't know quite yet.
Does that mean you're going to remove the detention at the northwest corner?
No, we'll still have the
We'll
detention
still have that
there.
on? Okay.
Swales and so forth.
Okay. And any other questions from the commission to the applicant?
Yeah, I do have one. It was interesting when I was just reading through the case that you've got 621 parking spots, but you're only 550.
Yes, we're over parked on this plan because we don't know quite yet who the user is going to be. We want to have that flexibility to where if we have a user that needs quite a bit of parking, we'll be able to provide that. It's likely that we won't have as many parking spaces as shown on the plan, but it really just depends on our user.
It just, for me, that was a lot of impervious acres that we're putting.
Right. Right. And it's really a balance between, having enough parking, but then you create more impervious surface. So then you have to do more detention. So it's a very valid point. We'll look at that when we get a little closer into design.
I'm just curious, is there opportunities for pervious paving in this setting? Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know with the
definitely.
weight of trucks, if that was possible.
Yeah. And that might, and again, that's, we'll look at that. That might work a lot better than native grasses, and it works immediately.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we'd like to have that flexibility. So.
Okay.
It's a lot harder to maintain.
Any other questions from the commission to the applicant?
Nope, but a question to staff. I mean, the request from the applicant for number 6 makes sense to me in terms of there's enough, they'll still, follow code. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, and this will, one of the conditions is that depending on the phasing, if both buildings get built at once or one at a time, that will project plan will come before the commission again, so we can review it more in detail at that time.
But I'm just wondering, do we have to take 6 out or just put other alternatives would be acceptable?
It's up to you, like was mentioned. I mean, there are standards for the stormwater detention that do not come through city planning that they'll need to adhere to. So, I mean, we can just, if you would like to modify the language to say be reviewed at the time of project plan, we can change it to something like that. Or remove it altogether.
I just want to make sure that there is going to be a stormwater management, there is going to be some alternatives and so forth versus taking it out and there's just nothing. So I don't.
Yeah, and that's per city code. So whether it's a condition in here or not, we have to meet
Okay.
that section.
Okay.
Sorry, maybe I missed this. Where did condition 6 come from? Did that come from planning staff or from?
Yes.
Okay. And is that something you've applied to other kinds of projects with similar topography? Is that kind of when you that's triggered? Okay. Sorry, you might have said that. I might have.
It's okay.
Any other questions? Let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony then. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket items 4.1 or 4.2, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber wishing to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
All right, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. And anything else to add?
No, sir.
Okay. Speak amongst the commission or I'll take a motion, please.
I feel like the stormwater management should kind of stay within the best practices of, as opposed to it being an additional condition. But it feels like it's sort of ticky tack in terms of where we address stormwater instead of just addressing it. And
Yeah, I think as long as it hits city code, I think we're fine with it.
Great. Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item 4.1 without conditions and 4.2 with conditions, but removing condition number 6.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 4.1 without conditions and 4.2 with conditions and the removal of condition number 6. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
hi.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 4-0. So thank you for bringing it in.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Appreciate it.
All right, moving right along. Let's go to docket item number 5, please.
Docket item 5 is case number SUP 2022-00052, a request to approve a special use permit for a hotel in District M1-5 at 1513 Oak Street. Larissa Chambi is the staff planner.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is docket item number 5, case CD SUP 2022-52. This is a request for a hotel in District M1-5. It's located in the greater downtown area. There's currently an existing building on the property, and this yellow outline is a little skewed, but it's generally that building, just bypassing it. The building does take up the entire lot, and the 3rd and 4th floor are all one suite, and the remaining suites are located on the 2nd floor for a total of 4 floors or 4 suites. Here's the site plan showing the extent of the building in addition to the inverted U bike rack that was proposed by the applicant. The applicant is not changing the exterior facade to the building and will be adding a 4th story. Just so you can get a good look at the layouts. As you can see up here or on the roof deck, there's perimeter landscaping And the lights that are pointed out here will be pointed inwards to avoid lighting to flooding over on the right of way. Here's the exterior. Nothing has changed or will change for the existing building. This is the additional fourth floor that's being added. There's no vehicular ingress and egress to the site because the building takes up the entire site. There's also no proposed off-street parking for this application. There's multiple on-street parking stalls within the vicinity of the building, and the parking requirements do not apply because the new use does not need to address parking for a lawfully existing parking deficit. The property is also located along the bike lane extension, which is why those bike racks were provided as well. There's no landscaping proposed. Landscaping is not required for this use as well, but the applicant has provided landscaping on that roof deck. And here's just what it looks like today from Oak Street. I can answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission to city staff? Okay, seeing none, let's welcome the applicant then. Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, my name's Robert Diamond. I'm the applicant and architect for this project. I think just like the commission to understand that the owner is actually going to occupy the third and fourth floor of this building and then do short-term room suites on the second floor.
Okay.
Otherwise, everything's, I think, pretty straightforward.
Mind speaking into your microphone, please?
Yeah, so the building will be owner occupied.
Okay.
And the owner occupied the third and fourth levels of the building. And the suites will be short-term hotel or short-term lease spaces. And the ground floor just remains storage is what it is now.
So how many units are on the second floor where you're going to have the short-term? Three. Okay.
The reason we're seeking a special use permit is because the way the ordinance is now, they can only lease one of the four.
Right.
So that's why it was in their interest to seek a special use permit.
And so just for the commission's understanding, in a multi-unit building, and this one's mixed use, but there's multiple dwelling units or units within the building. Only 25% of the units can be a short-term rental under the existing ordinance. If you exceed that, then under the existing ordinance, you're considered a hotel, and hotels require a special use permit in District M1. So that's kind of how it got to this path. They may advertise it on Airbnb or whatever, but under our zoning ordinance, it would be a hotel.
Okay. Any questions from the commission to the applicant? Being a short-term rental, I'm just curious on it's owner occupied. So can you give us a little bit background on the actual operation of how that's going to work, where you advertise, maintenance, security, those kind of things?
There's a separate entrance for the short-term rental units. It only goes up to the second floor. So that's the security aspect of it. And obviously the owner can access the entire building. It's just, but again, that's the short-term rental. That's what the security for that.
And they'll have their own restrooms in each unit?
That's correct. They're suites. So basically it's a bedroom, a kitchenette. They all have 2 bedrooms, a kitchenette. So they're all self-contained, 3 separate units on the third floor. I guess you could look at it as somewhat like in a small apartment, but in this case, they're going to be Airbnb.
That somebody signs up to be in the unit, they'll have a contract or some kind of document they need to sign with expectations of them.
Correct.
As a person staying there.
Correct.
Obviously there's no parking required, but where do you anticipate users may
street parking?
Street parking, if it's available.
Yeah, if you go down there in the evening, it's available.
Okay.
So I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Okay.
A question, since this is a little bit different than cases we've seen. If it wasn't owner occupied, would it trigger another level of requirement? Because I'm just wondering at some point if, to me, you being on the property is a certain level of accountability, but if you decide at some point not to live on the property, that doesn't trigger any additional approvals.
For the short-term rentals or for the
Yeah,
structure
for the
itself?
short-term rentals.
It's a different application type. So they would have to.
They would have to come back and do the type 2
Correct.
approval.
Yep.
Okay.
Nick, can you remind me what the bottom floor is used for? Is it just storage or is there-
Storage.
do we have any someday commercial or anything down there or at some point or?
I don't know what the future holds with that particular building and that
Okay.
building owner.
This is across the street from the the old Star, well, not the old Star building, but the one that they've recently vacated, right? Okay.
Okay. If there's no more questions for the applicant, let's open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 5, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, there's no one in the chamber wishing to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else you'd like to add?
Not this time.
Okay. With that, we'll speak amongst the commission, or if there's nothing to discuss, I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve docket item 5 with conditions.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 5 with conditions stated. Lisa, can you take a roll call, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Okay, looks like the motion passes in 4-0 for approval of this, and now you get to go to BZA, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to docket item number 7, please.
Docket item 7 is case CPC 2023-00017. Request to approve a rezoning from District AG-R to District MPD Master Plan Development to allow for a residential development consisting of approximately 249 detached lots and 340 multifamily units on about 100 acres located north of the northeast corner of Northwest 108th Street and Northwest Skyview Avenue. Olufuk Baji is the staff planner, and I'll also promote the applicant.
Thanks, Joe. Mr. Chairman, members of the City Plan Commission, Olufuk Agbaji, City Planning and Development. Please give me a minute to upload my plans as there are various flash drives in here that I need to eject. It will not eject because
Is the applicant available to sit up there with you or?
they are online.
Online.
Joe is promoting them.
And she has been promoted.
Okay.
While you do that, I'm gonna fill up my coffee. Thank you, Commissioner Enders, for bringing the coffee in today.
Of course. Yes.
share my screen. So that's all.
Here we go.
Okay. Should be good to go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This next case is located in the Northland. As you can see where my arrow is pointed, not too far from prior case you just heard. So it's just located at the quadrant between 435 on the north, 29 on the west, 169 on the east, and 152 on the south. This is just a aerial view of the area, just located on Skyview, on the east side of Skyview, just south of 435 and north of Northwest 108th Street. Another closed area view. This is the parcel, about 100 acres, and I'll run through the details of the case in a minute. And next to the east of the parcel is Tiffany Lakes, a single family subdivision zone R7.5. Everything else to the north, south, and west of the site are farmland, vacant farmland is just farmed ag land with, I think there's just one homestead on a large tract. This is to the farther west is the old Harley-Davidson plant, and this is the KCI auto auction. Again, the project is about 100-acre, currently zoned AGR. It's the request before is to rezone it from AGR to MPD to allow for about 589, to allow for 589 multi mixed-use residential development. And this project also serves as a preliminary plat that's going to be platted in 7 phases. And the product that's coming before you today is 249 detached lots and 9 tracts. And there's a 340 multi-unit residential development within 8 buildings as part of this development. Those buildings will be, the multi-family buildings will be 3-story, which is about 50-foot max. And we will have 3 45-unit building and 5 40-unit building. Other issues or other constraining site constraint is there's a stream buffer that runs through the site, and in terms of doing that, they did provide a preliminary stream buffer plan that shows the preservation of about 16 acres to allow for the stream buffer to remain. And one of the main concerns staff also have was presentation of the development along Skyview, both for the single family residential and for the apartment. Again, this is the proposed phasing plan. As you can see, they're proposing this in 7 phases. Phase 1 will be developed right to the site. To the east of the site, phase 2 is the multifamily development, which is in purple, and that's along Skyview and just on the southwest corner of the development. As you can see, they do have single family residential that back up to Skyview on phase 3 and phase 7. And phase 2, which is going to be along Skyview, is also the multifamily. So one of the big concerns staff had and has been addressed by the applicant is that what you show, especially with these 2 large buildings, multifamily buildings, we want what that looks like, the presentation along Skyview, to be at the front of the building. It may not be the functional front, but it should serve and present itself as that front, even though the access and entry to that multi-tenant building will be within the parking lot. So there is a design guideline, and staff is going to work to make sure that those languages in terms of what's presented gets put in the plan and approved with this, so that when they come back for their final MPD plans, which will come before your body, we will then deal with that at that time. Regarding the the rear of the single-family residential lots along Skyview. Staff had requested that this be properly bermed. And we wanted to see that with this overall plan so that when it comes back for individual phasing, we wanted to make sure that the grading was done appropriately to accommodate berms along this. Because what we run into in the past is they will say, yes, we'll do it. But when it comes to the phase by phase, I say, oh, the grading does not allow for it because we put drainage along this. But the applicant did submit revised plan and has taken care of that concern that I had. So there in the single family subdivision, again, this is about 349 single family lots. They do have multiple areas with the preservation of the stream buffer along here. They do have various detention tracks and to address stormwater runoff and everything within the site. They are proposing three different lot sizes. So they have, I think, 6,300 and 7,400 square feet, and then 8,300 square foot building size or lot sizes. So that there's three different products, and those are reflected in the colors that you see here. And this is a stream buffer plan submitted by the applicant. And you can see they are eliminating the stream here where it does not really have impact. And then they will enhance this stream from this area and preserve the vegetation along the stream as it currently exists. This is the revised grading plan the applicant uploaded yesterday for me to address the berm. So if you look at the cross section, there is significant berming that allows for a little private area for those single family residential lots. With that, staff's recommendation is for approval subject to the attached conditions, and I'll take any questions.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners to city staff?
Just wanted to clarify the multifamily buildings. There's no other commercial uses happening there, like L or any small.
No, there's no commercial because this is mid-block. So if you look at it's not mid-block, but they are not along Northwest 108th Street. So there's still chance for additional development, which could be commercial at the intersection. So.
Any other questions? Let's go ahead and welcome the applicant then, if the applicant's available.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Perlette Diosdado. I'm the applicant, 805 Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm the civil engineer with Kimley Horn representing the client Mann Company. I believe Sarah may have been on, not sure if she's promoted. She's also representing the client. I don't have any additional questions, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I do agree with staff to come up with the appropriate language for design guidelines on multifamily. And like you guys already saw, we accommodated those berms. There's Sarah, I see her now. And Billman as well.
Okay. What's the price? Hello. Can you kind of go over some of the price points of some of these homes that will be in this proposed neighborhood?
Yeah, the plan that we presented is very conceptual, so we don't have that information at this moment.
Are you able to speak to the first phase of development in more detail?
So the first phase is the single family, or are you meaning the multifamily?
Single family, it looks like, is what phase one is.
Yeah, so overall, it is very conceptual. We don't have at the moment, but we're happy to share once we come back with the final plan.
And these are all for sale homes, or are they for rent?
Yeah, they're all for sale.
Any kind of thought on the size of the home that will be there? 1,800 square foot, 2,500?
Yes, so I mean, it really depends on kind of the levels. And Sarah, feel free to chime in, but 3,200, depending on the type.
Probably starting around at least 1,800 square foot home.
Okay, any other questions from the commission to the applicant? Looking at you.
I guess I just kind of, with plans this large, I know they're still conceptual. I kind of want to get like, what is the vision of the site and how you see it operating and growing over time? I think I'm still not kind of seeing that part.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Yeah.
So we believe the area, I understand when you guys see these massive plans, you guys all just lots here, but it complements the neighbors, similar sizes. We do have tracks shown. We don't have any details just because we don't have that at the moment. But there is a lot of green area that we plan to preserve and show in the plan. And we believe that complements our neighbors as well.
Such a large development, is there any issues with regards to traffic or?
Is there a traffic study associated with the project?
It was a traffic study submitted and approved.
Okay.
And Skyview is on the major street plan, so the developer would end up paying impact fees. And eventually the Skyview would be improved by the city. And I can say that broader, if to the extent this helps answer Commissioner Sadowski's question, is zooming out a bit to kind of a 2 mile sphere. You have a number of industrial developments further north on Skyview, about a mile to the north, and then going west. You just approved one today, and then in this portion of Skyview and points east from here, it's planned to be in our long range plans, low density residential.
In just looking at sheet C0, that kind of spells out some of the requirements of the development as it moves forward. It only states that there's just 2 types of buildings that will be used for single family. So is every other house going to look like every other house? Or is there going to be other designs in this?
I believe that was what Olafu was mentioning at his presentation, that he wants to work together to come up with more specific guidelines, and we're happy to do that.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
I am just in the audience. Am I allowed to speak?
No, not yet. We haven't got to public testimony yet. We're still working with the applicant.
Thank you.
Well, I guess just sometimes from where we sit, sometimes I don't quite know how much detail is appropriate at the right time, but it seems like there's still not quite enough for us to evaluate and get a sense of like the size of the house relative to the lot and elevation of that relative to the topography. There's not quite enough to bite on to really evaluate, but
Olafu or Perla or
Sarah.
Let me. Is it fair to say that you guys don't have any builders identified, or are you working with some that have identified that these are the lot sizes they want to have? Is that why you don't know much about what will be built, because you don't have a builder yet?
That's correct.
So sometimes you do get more details because the developer is the builder, or they have brought builders along that are interested. In this case, I don't think that they have that information because the end user of the lots or the end developer of the lots there's not one on board yet.
And there are two separate development. The single families, we usually don't see the buildings and we won't see those buildings. Those will be based on the buildings. Just we're working on the preliminary plat for the single family. For the multifamily, that will come back to you as a final MPD plan because it's multifamily. But the single family, we're just laying out the lots, the connection to the neighborhood, making sure that the stormwater and all those work for. So that's more for two separate paths. So it's a preliminary plat that allow for 3 different lot sizes. So the building will be based, its price point they're trying to get. So based on the size of your lot, you will be able to accommodate a certain size of buildings. So in this case, they have from 6,300 square foot lot, 7,400 square foot lot, and 8,300 square foot lot. So that gives you a range that's from R6 to R7.5. So there's a range and a mix in the market, so you can afford. It gives the developer or the builder more flexibility in terms of market rate. And that's built in here since they don't know who the builder is.
Maybe in those cases where they're just falling within the lot and building standards, it might be just helpful to have that information, in front of us as well, so that we can kind of picture, here's the size of the house relative, here's what the setbacks would be within this. Because it's a pretty compact development, which could be great, but it also just, I can't visualize how those houses all kind of interact with each other. Kind of understanding that figure ground would be helpful.
Yeah, since this is a preliminary plat also, and it's an MPD, which gives them the flexibility not just to rezone to R7.5, that puts the minimum at 7,500 square foot a lot. By the MPD, gives them the flexibility of going down to R6 to R7.5. So that's one of the things granted by the MPD. But they can still come back as long as they do not exceed the number. They will not exceed the number of lots, but based on the market, they may just go, when it comes to final plat, they could plat it for less than what you're granting them today. So they could end up and just plat about 230 if the market says we want bigger lots. So when they come after phase 1, and everybody's building bigger, they will plat less lots. And that's also allowed. But the street layout, stormwater, and all those is being approved today.
I also want to mention that I don't know if you have it in front of you, but sheet C4 has colors, and obviously it's not realistic, but it's shown to represent the house in different colors, yellow, blue, and orange. So I don't know if that helps answer your question.
Yeah, a little bit. I guess it felt like they were very tightly compacted next to each other. So I wasn't sure how that was going to feel.
Is there a sheet, Perla, that has the dimensions of the lots?
Yeah, I believe that should be the preliminary plat, and that is sheet C3.
What is the distance, like the way that it's indicated in this colored plan, what is the distance between those building footprints from one another roughly?
Not much.
Yeah, so the squares are representing if the buildings were to be maxed out.
Okay.
And so since we don't have that information, we wanted to present to you what's, the maximum. So that's why they're showing that compacted, not necessarily, they don't have to be that way.
Okay.
The lot widths appear to be between about 55 and 65 feet generally. And that's slightly under, but very close to typical, which tends to be between 65 and 75. The lot depths are between 106 and 120, which is about typical.
I feel like the lot sizes seem right. And I don't know, I think we're not afraid of density for sure. I just like to kind of understand how that works together. Especially when you look at houses being right next to each other, it begs the question, should that be townhouses then? So that's just for us. And
I could be missing it, Perla or O, but are there
Mhm.
setback requirements listed anywhere on the plans?
Yes, there.
Yeah, so they're listed on sheet C2. And we have them under the setbacks, which is the side setback is 5, rear 25, front 15. Just the area B and area A are different, so you can see them on that sheet.
Okay, thank you.
And Pearl, I did have you correct the side on corner for corner lots.
Yeah, that was a comment from you, correct?
But it's on the face, the setbacks are on the face of the plan.
Yeah, setback is just showing the front of the home, but not the sides. Or the back.
feel like we can go on to public testimony. I just.
Okay.
get that clear.
All right, let's go ahead and open it up for any public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 7, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, I don't see anyone in the chamber wishing to speak. We have a citizen, Tina Abbott, too, who has been promoted.
Okay. Good morning, Miss Abbott.
Good morning.
Yeah, if you don't mind stating your name and address for the record, please.
Tina Abbott, 5506 Northwest 110th Street, KC Mo. We are in the subdivision that backs up to this property. And then conjointly to that would be Tiffany Greens. First of all, thank you for addressing the berms. That was a huge bonus. The other issue that we all have in here is the traffic. And you mentioned that from what point is the developer going to be taking the improvement of Skyview? And then from what point where is the city going to take over for the increase in that? The size of Skyview for traffic control?
As I mentioned earlier, Skyview's on the major street plan, so the city is responsible for collecting the impact fee and then doing the work. I recently had a conversation with Patty Hildebrand in Public Works regarding development in this area in general, and I don't believe that this portion of Skyview is planned in the near future to be improved.
Even though, like, we're going to have this master planned community that's very dense, there's going to be a lot of traffic right there.
Yeah, I understand what you're asking, but some of this development won't occur for a while. I mean, the timeline it'll take to get phase 1 or even phase 2 done is still 2.5 couple years out, I would guess.
That's what I was wondering. What kind of a time frame are we looking at? 1 to 5, 1 to 2?
Maybe the applicant can help speak to that once we're done with public testimony and answer that question for us.
And the traffic study, is that conducted based on Skyview in its current form or is, okay.
Mhm.
What was-
Sorry,
What was
Mr.
the answer to that?
Yes, yes.
That was a very good question. What is the answer to that?
The traffic study was based on the way Skyview is currently built, the way it
Okay.
exists today.
Mr. Chair, there's one other person that's raised their hand that I promoted named Shannon Sailors.
Okay. All right, Shannon, as you become available, if you can take yourself off mute and state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate it, guys. My name is Shannon Sailors. I currently live at 5704 Northwest 110th Court there in Kansas City. My question to you guys today is in reference to the second creek that flows right just a little bit southeast of this property line here. I know the city and with KC Water Services are currently working on a channel improvement. This channel improvement has currently about 4 phases on it. And I think the first phase, 1A, has just recently been approved, but the other 3 phases have not gone through the approval process yet. What are the chances of these other 3 phases getting approved before we start construction on this new property? Which, you know, it's looking great out there now. So, but we're currently right now, this channel back here has got a lot of erosion and getting closer to the homes that back up to it on the northwest 110th Court there. So.
Okay. We'll see if we can ask staff from Water Services if they can answer that for us.
And Mr. Chair, one additional person has raised their hand. In the meantime, KT Cruz, I've asked them to accept promotion.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that after public testimony, if that's all right. I'm not seeing KT Cruz.
They've accepted, they're identified as a large K in the middle of the screen. I don't know.
Oh,
at the far end.
Hi, KT, if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is KT Cruz. I live at 10804 North St. Clair Avenue. I also back on the stream that the other speaker referenced, and several houses down from me, there has been a severe erosion where the channel has been eroded out to within approximately 20 feet of a house. There's a utility line that is exposed currently. And I recently moved here, so I'm not up on the different grants and everything that were for that. But the presenter glossed over the stream situation. And in a presentation they gave to the homeowners several weeks ago, they said that they would control the outflow from the creek on their proposed development. But if you have a real gusher, that's going to cause more erosion. And I don't think their planning for control of the water on the property is adequate at this time. And also another side comment, when we had our presentation, they said this was a 59-acre project. And today it was stated that it was a 100-acre project. Is it a 59-acre project or is it a 100-acre project?
It is a 100-acre project that they're presenting to us today.
Okay, thank you. But it sounds like they have a lot of spec in this still. And I would urge the committee to delay voting on this until there's more details available from the developer. That's all I have to say. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Anybody else, Joe?
No one else.
Okay, so at this time we'll close public testimony. Sounds like we've got a few items here. The traffic study as well as some of the channel improvements. See if we can get some idea from city staff on that from Water Services and of course the erosion in there.
Lucas Casper is still on the line.
Okay.
And they did submit a revised stream buffer study, so Lucas can answer that.
Yeah, Lucas, can you talk about that a little bit? And also if you know anything about capital improvements to improve the creek stream bed back there?
To be honest, Kobe, I do not know of any planned projects from Water Services. I would have to check into that to see if there's planned projects to do any improvements to the channel of the stream there. I did, hear their concerns regarding 110th Court, and I think they said North St. Clair, and I was looking on the parcel viewer here at those locations on the cul-de-sacs that are on the opposite side of the channel. So on the east side of this channel, and one of the locations kind of is at the southeast corner of this proposed development there. And it does appear that there is, floodplain at 110th Court. It appears that there is a kind of a little nub maybe that sticks off the floodplain there that comes clear up to the property lines there. And so what I would imagine happened is that there was not a stream buffer requirement imposed on the development to the east. So the concerns are real over there as far as how close those homes on the east side of that creek have been constructed to that creek. That's a problem that we run into with these, is that as those streams meander, they tend to erode the back slope on the channel, which causes the channel to move over time. I can speak for this development here. We've got conditions for the stream buffer requirements. There's a leg of the stream on the west end of the stream buffer that I've worked with Perla and her staff over there at Kimley Horn to figure out. We did work on that west edge of the stream. You can tell on parcel viewer that's been there's no vegetation or stream in that area. It's been farmed or agricultural use, and there's not really a stream there. But we did pick up the east-west route there, as well as the channel on the east side that runs north-south, that the concern is for these subdivisions to the east. Our city code requires that they provide that buffer area on that stream, which they've delineated the mature riparian as well as the stream buffer appropriately on those two channels there. I can tell you that the requirements for APWA 5600 and the Mark BMP manual will be required for this development, meaning that the Q and V, so the peak flow and the total volume of stormwater that is allowed to leave that site must be maintained at or below the existing conditions before the development occurs. So, I haven't, in-depth reviewed the drainage study on this particular project. Typically that's done by Land Development Division once the plans are submitted. But I can tell you that they'll be required to be compliant with APWA 5600 and the Mark BMP manual for water quality. Other than that, I know that as these, residential developments happen, they do increase the impervious area, which can increase that flow in those creeks. But we will, as the city, make them follow all of our APWA codes and water quality codes for what they're developing there. So that's about what I can say as far as the requirements that we're going to hold them to on their stormwater. It's going to be consistent with what's required with all these developments. So I think does that address your questions, or were you looking a different direction?
Yeah, mostly. So basically the new development, it's going to have measures in place to control the water, slow it down before it actually reaches the creek. And you guys are going to monitor that to make sure it's existing conditions or less, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. The other question with that is, if there is some capital improvements being done to that stream bank, who would the homeowners there contact just to check on status? Do you know that?
I would not be totally sure. I would think that may be a good person to contact regarding that. Down at Water Services might be Jing Tao. Jing Tao is the stormwater engineer that we have at 63rd Street that would be involved with those type of projects.
Okay.
It's JINGTAO, Jingtao. And if anybody has questions or needs help, like Sarah and Bill and Perla, if you know, help would be needed to reach out and get the contact for them, you guys can contact me and I can provide her contact information and some more information about who you would want to contact regarding some of that stuff.
Okay. And those that did come in on public testimony, you can also contact your local council rep to work on them a little bit to help push something forward on those too.
Yes.
Okay.
I know, Colby, that we've had some subdivisions on there that we've had the similar things happen. I don't want to definitely say exactly where, but some of those along those Line Creek up there, we've had some of those type deals where they reline the channel of the stream with like gabion baskets in through there. So it's definitely something that Water Service has some of those projects, but I don't know if there's anything planned in this specific location at this time.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand for my own knowledge, because we evaluate projects based on what we see currently. But if it sounds like there's some movement with some of the streams, and I know this might apply more to the development to the east of this than this development. I'm just trying to understand the process by which the city evaluates that. Obviously, that homeowner might be moving from a condition in which they are outside of a stream buffer to now a condition in which they are inside of a stream buffer. That planning commission that approved what is fairly a newish development was only able to assess it based on where the stream was located at that time. So I'm just curious for my own understanding how you evaluate that in terms of movement with the stream and how much you're seeing that across the metro as being a concern of residents.
Well, I don't know if that was for Luke, but I can say that the development to the east was one of the reasons why the city passed the stream buffer ordinance.
Okay.
So it was approved originally before that ordinance was effective.
Got it. Okay.
And so I think the problems they're experiencing there, Luke is correct. There are other neighborhoods that are like this that are very close to the stream, and all streams to varying degrees move around a little bit over time.
Yeah.
So I think the issue is not so much the stream as it is the development was approved too close to the stream.
Okay.
With that project. And so they're experiencing the outcome of that. I know in other scenarios where this has happened, there's been a need to cobble together funding from various sources, including PIAC, to go in and do the stabilization that Luke was describing.
Yeah.
And that can take a long time to do.
Okay. Just making sure.
Joe, I'm looking at I've turned the platting layer on here. Tiffany Lakes is actually the subdivision where we were running into those issues years ago. I worked with a developer named Darren Sherry on those developments there, and there was a lot of resistance on several of those later plats in there to want to provide stream buffers on that, based on the fact that the first subdivisions did not require them. I had lots of comments at that time about the stream buffer, and there was a lot of resistance at that point in time.
So are we good with the stream buffer on this plan?
On this plan, it meets the ordinance. Yeah.
And any going forward, it sounds like it's.
Yeah, it's a requirement on anything going forward. Right.
Okay.
I think the other issue, going back to the applicant, was the timing on the phasing. What's the timing for this whole project? And frankly, looking at C2, there's a little schedule on there that says it's going to be ready by the end of the year. I think that might need to be updated.
Yes, definitely not by the end of the year. Sarah, do you want to comment on timeline? I know it's probably estimated, but.
Yeah, I would probably say this is, probably 2 to 3 years for, first phase. And then for the whole project to be completed, it could be, a 7-year project.
So before the first phase or second phase starts construction, you're saying it's going to be 2 to 3 years down the road before that happens, or you're looking at that second phase to be done within that 2 to 3 years?
Probably the first and second phase to be done within the 2 to 3 years.
All right. Anybody else for public testimony, Joe? Okay, with that, we'll close public testimony then. And I think we've gone through some of the comments. Just
I wanted to also clarify the size. I think the 59 acres is for the single family, and then the rest is private open space and the multifamily. So when they mention 59 acres, that's for the single family development.
Oh, 10 acres is the single family development piece. Is that right?
No,
59.
59 for single family, and then the rest is private open space,
Oh, okay.
stormwater,
Gotcha.
and multifamily.
Yep.
100 acres total.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Anything else? So at this time, we'll go ahead and close testimony and speak amongst the commissioners. If there's nothing to discuss, I think we kind of heard everything. I'll take a motion.
I think the C4, if I'm understanding it correctly, I think that has the setbacks for those who are interested.
Oh,
It's like
Oh,
25 feet rear, 30 feet front, and then 5 feet on the side yard. So 10 cumulative between two.
I do have corrections to those that she resubmitted. So there's additional correction to add some additional setbacks that were left out. So.
Okay.
Bottom of C4.
Okay.
All right, Chair Crowley, move to approve docket item number 7 with conditions.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 7 with conditions stated. Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes in 4-0 for approval of docket item 7. And those that are on the phone, just please understand that some of the stormwater management on this, they do have the stream setbacks, the buffer in there that's required as part of projects now. And we understand that there might be some improvements being made on your side of the creek there. But I would certainly reach out to your local council member or someone from the Water Services Department to discuss that in more detail, how you can get some of those items fixed. So we appreciate you coming in, and applicant, thank you for bringing it in, and good luck as you move forward.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to docket item number 8. Looks like we got 2 left here. We're gonna be able to make it by noon?
Yeah, I think you will be able to.
Okay.
Docket item 8 is case number CPC 2023-00022. Request to approve rezoning without plan from District R6 to District B1-1 at 5500 Woodland. Genevieve Kahn is the staff planner.
Docket item 8 is for a rezoning without plan at 5500 Woodland Avenue. The site is generally located in the Blue Hills neighborhood area with Truce Avenue on the west and Prospect on the east. Generally. Here's a close-up of the subject site. It's at the corner of East 55th and Woodland Avenue. There isn't one existing structure on the property. Just zooming out a little bit to show you some context of the area. It's primarily residential, but there are a few corner spots here and there that are zoned commercially or are commercial in nature. And the request before you is to rezone this property from R6 to B1-1. And that is in order to allow for a daycare center, which accommodates the most children, as the property is currently zoned. In order to have 20 children in a group daycare, a special use permit would be allowed or would be required in order to permit that. However, looking at the history of this property, it has always been a commercial structure and commercial in nature. And so this is really sort of just catching the zoning up to the structure that was there and how it's been used in the past. So as you can see, this is the same structure. This is the corner of Woodland and 55th. Definitely not residential in nature whatsoever. And then again, just looking at the building that has been on the property. And staff's recommendation for this rezoning is approval, and the applicant, Linda Brown, should be available on Zoom.
Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
One second, please. Any questions from the commission to city staff? Okay, seeing none, welcome applicant.
Thank you.
Hey, do you mind stating your name and address for the record, please?
Linda Brown, 1641 East 59th Street, Kansas City, Missouri, 64110.
Welcome. Anything you'd like to add?
I'm just excited to be able to reopen the daycare center, which has been closed, but it's time for an uplift. And I'm needing you to approve me, and I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the daycare that you plan to run there? How many kids and ages and those kind of things?
I sure can. Mostly from infants up to 5 years old. And we will have enough space for 8 infants and then enough space for 2 and 3 year olds. And it should be whatever the state code is per measurement of children per square foot. In the past, it was for 41, and I'm sure it may be less because some things have changed since then, but it will be in that area of number. And what makes it really unique, because it is in the heart of the neighborhood, and the community is excited to see it reopen at some time, because most of them could walk to bring their children in.
Gotcha. Sounds good. And how many staff people do you anticipate?
It will be a ratio of what the kid, say like in the infant room, ratio is 1 to 4. So with 8 infants, that would be 2 staff. And then for the toddlers, 2 and 3 years old, that would be 1. And then for the 4-year-olds, so we're looking at about 5 staff.
Okay. Perfect. Any questions from the commission? All right. Let's go ahead and open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 8, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you will be called upon.
Mr. Chair, it appears there's no one in the chamber wishing to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Ms. Brown, anything else you'd like to add?
Nothing else, just hopefully that I will be approved. Thank you.
All right. You look like you're getting ready to get your workout in today.
You can.
We got to get ready for the kids, I guess.
Y'all weren't supposed to see that.
All right. If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion, please.
Just good to see some more daycare.
Yeah, thank
so,
you, Ms.
yeah.
Brown, for bringing that back. I move to approve docket item 8. Is it with conditions? Without conditions.
Without conditions.
Without conditions.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 8 without conditions. Lisa, can you take roll call on that motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Crowe,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
All right, thank you. So it looks like the motion passes 4-0. We appreciate you bringing it in and And thank you for all your work to bring this back to life.
I thank you. I thank you.
So with that, let's move to docket item number 9.
Case number CPC 2023-0023, a request to approve a development plan in District M1-5 in US underground space for a limited manufacturing and outdoor warehousing, wholesaling, storage, and freight movement use on about 17 acres at Parvin Road and North Corrington Avenue. Andrew Clark is the staff planner.
Okay, good afternoon, almost commissioners. I will share my screen here.
You're not going to take the rest of the time to 12, are you? Just
Not at
checking.
all. Okay, so before you is case 2023-23. And this is a development plan that's non-residential, just north of the river. It's located just west of 435 and directly north of 210. The site has several properties involved, but overall it's 17 acres. You can see here is the former Vatterott College site, and that is on the west side of the east side of the site. And then there is an undeveloped piece of property over here, and that is the majority of the site. The reason why you're seeing this plan before you today is anything that's zoned M1, if it is more than 10 acres, it requires a development plan. And this slide really shows you the two different project areas. On the east, Midway Ford will be outfitting primarily transit vans. And then the area in purple will be landscaped and fenced for the staging of the vehicles before and after they've been outfitted. Like I said before, this is a very straightforward case. You're seeing it before you today. These uses are permitted outright in the zoning districts, but because of the scale of this site, it needs approval, a recommendation of approval from the commission, and then final approval from council. Staff does recommend approval with conditions, and that concludes my presentation.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? Okay, let's go ahead and welcome the applicant.
Thank you, commissioners. Mr. Chair, my name is Jacob Hodson. I'm representing Midway Ford and Hunt Midwest in this project. The Midway Ford has an upfitting center, which they take brand new Fords, trucks and vans, and they bolt on, shelves, racks, put decals on them, and then they go out to industrial customers. This is an expansion of that process. So they have taken the Vatterott College. They are currently in the means of remodeling it to allow for that. It'll look very similar, a couple more garage doors. But they need the space in order to stage the vehicles while going into production and coming back before they get loaded onto semi trucks. And that is primarily what we're proposing today. So across the street from the Vatterott College site will be approximately 5.5 acre staging lot. It will be fenced and screened, and it will be lit. I have had discussions with a couple of the neighbors, the Holiday Inn and the neighbor on the corner of Parvin and Corrington. And they both welcome that because it is a very dark lot back in that. And they said at night, the street lights just aren't sufficient to light up that street. So they're looking for the security of the lighting and the video cameras that Midway will install in this lot. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. We are adhering to the stream buffer plan. There is a stream buffer on the backside. We're adhering to that. We're not doing any development in there past the 40% that we can are allowed to disturb. We are seeking a alternative landscape compliance because there will be no plantings inside the parking lot. So we've taken all the planting requirements and we've moved it to the perimeters as screening for both the lot and for the Vatterott College. There'll be a screen between them and their southern neighbor, the Holiday Inn. And with that, it's pretty straightforward. If you have any questions, I welcome them and I ask that you approve this project. Thank you.
Do you anticipate any of those vehicles idling at any point in that staging line?
Not for more time than to take them into the shop and get them out of the shop. In fact, we will be proposing, the electric is kind of the new wave of these industrial things. So there will be a 6 to 8 electric charging stations over there. So there will be some charging, but they're new vehicles. They don't really need to, they're not sitting there idling. At best, I think you'd have a semi truck maybe while it was loading and unloading, but.
Any other questions from the commission?
I guess I had a question back to staff about the alternative planting requirements. If you had any concerns about that, and maybe just give a little more understanding of what that means.
It's just the reality of how that lot would be used. That landscaping would die immediately or not be taken care of because we would have no way to see. So we asked them to work with us to really screen the area with what would be wasted on the interior and at the end of the day.
All right, so let's open it up for public testimony. If there's anybody out there that would like to speak regarding docket item number 9, please come forward or raise your hand using the Zoom feature and you'll be called upon.
Mr. Chair, no one in the chamber wishes to speak and no one on Zoom has raised their hand.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public testimony then. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Chair Crowell, I move to approve docket item 9 with conditions.
Second.
So I've got a motion and a second for approval of docket item number 9 with conditions stated. Lisa, can you take roll call on the motion, please?
Commissioner Allender,
Aye.
Corral,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
and Sadowski.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the motion passes 4-0 for approval. We appreciate you bringing it in and good luck.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. So I think that includes our docketed items. Just a couple of things to discuss real quick since we got 45 minutes to go.
Could have put it out Cowboy Tyson.
First item is typically in August, we'd vote to have one meeting in August and take one of the meetings off. However, this year, the way 4th of July lays out, 4th of July is on Tuesday. And we won't have that meeting that day unless you guys really want to be here. But it may not have any staff to present anything.
On your own.
So in July, we're only going to have one meeting. Frankly, I suggest because of that, we do maintain the 2 meetings in August, but just want to run that by the rest of the commission. Okay. I think we continue to have the 2 meetings in August and go that route because we have the 1 meeting in July, but next year, obviously, we'll take another look at August. The other item is in the next meeting. Obviously, we do have the comprehensive plan that's coming before us for approval. Just make sure you kind of take your final looks at that. I doubt we're going to make any changes between now and then, but because that is going to be the final that they're presenting for approval. But another item we're going to have at our meeting is the city is working on an audit. And we have what is that called, Joe?
It's an audit of the boards and commissions. It's not just the planning commission.
Yeah, it's for every board and commission, but there's a series of questions that's asked of us as part of this audit. And so we're going to talk through those questions before I submit it in, just to make sure we're all on the same page. I don't know if we can maybe print it out and provide it as part of a packet for the staff. Is that possible?
Do that.
That way we
can put it as an agenda item and then print out the questions in advance so that the commissioners can try to do that. I can try to get a printout of it. I haven't seen the survey myself.
Okay.
So is that a group response or is it per?
The planning commission response. Okay. So, but we're not the only board that's being asked to put this together.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
How it's going.
Yeah, they just asked as part of this survey or response that we go through it with the whole commission or board. I'd be glad to answer it on everybody's behalf, but it may not be fair everybody might have different answers than what I have.
What is the intent audit?
It says it's, if I remember correctly, and I can try to pull it up, but the email, but the auditor's office, I guess there's an ordinance that was passed or something that requires the boards to answer like every 4 or 5 years about governance, which I'm not sure, that's a very broad term to me. So I'm not quite sure what that means. And I think the questions are structured around that topic. And each board has one survey to complete. So that's why one individual has to submit it. And I believe appropriately, Chairman Crowell wants to run those questions by everyone instead of just answering on the commission's behalf himself.
I don't know why, but somehow I read through it and I remember it felt very, very overly generalized to try to hit all sorts of boards and commissions. And so a lot of it seemed like not really applicable to us, but it didn't have a great response for like not applicable. So it'll be interesting to go through, I guess.
Yeah.
Seemed like something that was very well intended, but is executed in a bizarre way.
Yeah, I was just wondering if they're trying to get boards and commissions to operate more efficiently together, or
I think there's a number of boards, and it's like this in every community I've worked, that don't meet regularly, have quorum issues regularly, don't keep minutes, are all sorts of random things that they're supposed to do, and I just don't think that, I think that's probably part of the intent of this. And there's just not an issue with this board because of the type of business you deal with.
Okay, anything else before the commission? All right, so motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.